Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. Today I'm going to go over Iron Fist number 1, Phantom Limb. And I'm going to go over it for a couple of reasons. First of all, because I don't think anybody else has, and I figured I'd go over it just because no one else has. And I'm going to give it a review, but at the same time, I'm going to give it a review in my own way. That is to say, as I review it, I'm going to actually do something else. I'm going to show you why you shouldn't be reading Marvel and you should be reading your independent comics. And from that, you'll probably be able to tell right off the bat that this is not going to be a positive review. And it's not. But if you want to hear me rant, you can listen to this and to see why I think you should not be reading this kind of garbage. Now, the thing is that I was actually a really big Iron Fist fan, and I'm talking from way back. I remember reading Iron Fist in the 70s, and you know, in my collection I have things like the original Iron Fist series where you had first appearance of Sabretooth, you know, where he met the X-Men for the first time, and that was a really fun issue. So I was actually a really big Iron Fist fan, and I really hate it when they paired him with Power Man. Really. I really didn't like Power Man. I have never liked Power Man. I am never going to like Power Man. And I'm not going to call him Luke Cage. His name is Power Man. And I am not watching the series that Marvel has on television right now for Iron Fist because, well, I watched the Power Man series and it really just left a bad taste in my mouth, so bad that I didn't want to watch any Marvel shows after that. I really didn't. So from what I've heard, I'm not actually missing very much. But you know, I used to read Iron Fist and want to read Iron Fist more and more because there was great stretches of time where you had no Iron Fist comics whatsoever. He was not a character that was used. But the thing is that he is being used now. He's in his own television show. So they should be giving him some love, right? In the comics. And you would think that giving him this series would be that. But no, it isn't. It isn't at all, because if anything, this is just using him. This is using the character. This is not showing the character any love whatsoever. This is, you're going to make us some money. That's about it. You know, come on with me. I'll give you a little money. That's the kind of use that they're doing there. So to get into the book itself, all right, now it has a fairly good cover if you ask me. It's just a portfolio piece, but at the same time I kind of like it. And it's a fairly big book. It's got 2 chapters to it. It's like 45 pages, right? So it's just horrible. I mean, I'll go over the art in a little while, but this art is awful. And here, what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to do something a little new. I'm just going to put in the background the pages. I'm not going to put them all in there, of course, but I'm just going to cycle through them, and I'm not going to actually put them where I'm talking about them. So if you want to look at them, you go right ahead. But the thing is, right from the get-go, this story just is horrible. Why? Because you have Wrecker. Iron Fist is fighting him on top of this basically giant Ferris wheel out of Coney Island, and he has put a bomb on it and wishes to drive it into the ocean to kill all the people off it. Right there you got yourself problem number 1, because all you're doing is making a plot point, and you're trying to build other things around the plot point that make no sense, because the whole point is that you got women and children on this thing and they're going to die unless Iron Fist gets them off. He's trying to get them off. In that process, he actually has this kid which slips through his fingers, and then he dies. And so the death of this kid is what this entire story revolves around. And the thing is, here you go. I mean, you want to put the story around that? Great. Why are you using the Wrecker? The Wrecker is a thief. The Wrecking Crew are thieves, right? They're not mass murderers. They're not psycho killers. They don't just plant bombs in order to kill people for no reason whatsoever. And no reason is given for this at all, except for the fact that he's a bad guy. So obviously he can put bombs on things and just wish to kill people. No, that's not his character. All right. Not only do SJWs, and I don't know if this guy is an SJW or not that's writing it, but I'll lump him in with that for now until I give him a better term. But you know, they don't know how to write villains either. They really don't. Because this is not the character for the Wrecker. This is not his character. Right? All right. So then you get these couple of pages of him trying to save this kid, as I said, and then losing the kid. And what happens is the kid actually gets taken over by this demon. Basically, it's like a Eastern kind of demon, and he gets taken over by this demon. This demon sees in the mind of this dead child what Iron Fist is, and he wants that as his vessel because Iron Fist is full of chi and he wants to use that chi to become a warrior demon. Now, first of all, I got to say, all right, back in the 70s, you know, this hippy dippy chi stuff, this Eastern mysticism, it actually played fairly well. You know, people were actually interested in it. Are people still interested in this? I mean, really? I know that, you know, it's part of your Eastern mysticism and all that kind of stuff, but that's not how it's given here. It's given here as if it's like, it's campy. It's your leftist campiness. That's what it is. It's using, because leftists, of course, you know, they're all about the fact that, well, no religion is actually true whatsoever, so they're all on equal footing, so we just use them as if they were, I don't know, just some plot point, right? It could be an infinity stone that powered him for all we know. It makes no sense, right? Makes no sense whatsoever. So it's this leftist campiness. It's using these things in a campy way. And when you say campy, usually you think of fun, kind of ridiculous. No, this is leftist campiness. That is to say, no respect for it. No respect at all. Because, I mean, like I said, back in the 70s, you got your hippy-dippy idiots bringing in your Western and Eastern mysticism and trying to meld them together in some kind of strange way, which, you know, made no sense. But at the very least, they were sort of kind of be genuine about it. I don't know. But they didn't understand it. Of course they didn't. But at the same time, now you got this thing. It's ridiculous. Really. To me, it's ridiculous. But this is what the entire story is based around, because you have Danny and he is broken up by he's broken up by this kid being killed, right? And so this rage within him, because all he wants to do is pound things until they're dust, this rage within him is interfering with his chi, and he can't use it correctly because of this rage inside him. And again, hippy dippy crap that's twisted around to campy leftist speak. That's what it is. It makes zero sense. Okay. And then, okay, I don't know if you saw during these panels that I'm putting up here. So what Danny does is he basically drinks himself into a drunken stupor and finds himself in the bed of this woman, half naked woman, by the way. And when they say comics are for everyone, and I'm looking at pages like this, I'm going, yeah, that page is not for everyone. That's for your hormonal teens, and that's what that's for. No, I don't think you want to be giving this book to somebody who's a little kid just because of that page. But at the same time, that's not what really irks me about this page, where Danny actually is doing this, because again, here's the point. Here's how this entire story falls down. Is because, okay, Danny gets drunk by drinking Boilermakers, ends up in the bed of this woman he doesn't know, and then there's an entire basically page of him talking to her. But the point is, okay, here's the point. Either you got to commit to the bit. You got to commit to the bit, and the leftists can't commit to the bit, because the whole point of this is supposed to be that he's beating himself up, and so he's doing self-destructive things, of course, getting drunk and waking up in the bed of some stranger. That's a self-destructive thing, but the story never actually has any internal dialogue, any of that whatsoever, to show that it's a self-destructive thing, because leftists, of course, think that hopping in and out of bed with anybody that you want to is not anything that is shameful, and therefore it's not self-destructive. So this entire scene contradicts itself, because of the very fact that the reason why you put it in is because it's a shameful thing, because it's self-destructive, and therefore Danny is using it to beat himself up. If you want to put that in as part of the story, great, it actually works. But if you're putting it in and then erasing that whole it's self-destructive because it's shameful part, which the leftists have to do, then this scene makes no sense. You got to actually go one way or the other. If you put the scene in, you got to commit to it and put the rest of it in. If you are not going to put the rest in, don't put this scene in. I don't care if you put the scene in or not, but you got to use it correctly. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous storytelling. And that's the entire point, okay? Then we have some rest of the story where basically this demon is going around and possessing other people, or I don't know, recreating himself in other people and using fortune tellers and mystics in order to do that. And again, this would be something that actually could be a good plot point, where you joining together like your Eastern and Western mysticism, you could actually make it something. Because let's go to, let's see, Western mysticism for a minute, because in Western mysticism, basically the reason or how demons enter into you is you got to kind of invite them in. They're not allowed in unless you first invite them in. And Western mysticism sees things like fortune telling and all these kinds of stuff that are going on here in this book as inviting in a demon. And so they could have actually made that point. But again, they can't actually make that point, because then they would be saying, oh, look, this has some substance to it. It doesn't have any substance to it. This story has no substance. Okay, so the rest of the story is Danny basically fighting with this monster, because it stops at the first chapter, which is basically halfway through the book, of Danny just finding this monster and him saying he wants to take him over. And then the entire next chapter, which is like 22 pages, is just them fighting. Okay, and yeah, sure, it's a good fight and it's kind of okay scenes, but you don't need 22 pages for it. 5 pages tops, right? That's it. This is ridiculous, because the whole point is he takes over Danny's hand, and Danny's hand is fighting against himself, which is ridiculous. Because, okay, so here's my 2 points about the review of this book. My 2 points are, number 1, that here you have this book, and this is why Marvel books fall down. It's because they can't commit to the bit. They can't actually have anything with substance in it. All of these story points mean nothing, because of course in your far leftist speak, nothing actually has any meaning whatsoever. Since nothing has any actual meaning, you can't tie it down to some meaning, therefore your story means nothing. Again, the scene with the girl in the bed, that could have had meaning. Danny beating himself up. But they can't tie it to that meaning, and therefore it's irrelevant. You got Danny wandering around, and you have all of this stuff going on with this demon. Again, if that demonology and that kind of stuff, if you wanted to delve a little bit into that, and you wouldn't have to go very far, you could actually tie it to something real, something that has substance, that is to say, like real as in myths and legends and stuff like that. But no, it is not tied to anything at all, and therefore it has no substance. Same with the very start of the book. I mean, there is nothing to tether this down to anything that means anything. And so the story is garbage because it means nothing. And it leads right into my second point. My second point is this art is horrible. All right. And as horrible as this art is, the story is even worse. Because you know what? You know what I call this? I would call this garbage art. And I'm not just talking about the artist himself, but also the storytelling. He's an artist as well. This is garbage art. All right. Now, I don't see why this would be in a Marvel book whatsoever. If this is the level of art you're going to get in a Marvel book, yeah, just go buy your independent guys, because, I mean, I understand that they're not at the level you would used to get in a Marvel book, but at the same time, there's a reason why your independent guys are not at that level, because they don't have the backing, they don't have the money, they don't have the editors which are supposed to be there to edit their art and everything else, and they got to do everything themselves. But here's the thing. This is what it looks like to me, all right? I won't call these people garbage artists for very long. I think that's the last time I'll use that, because that's a bit demeaning, and I don't want to connect it with other things, because I don't want to demean them in that way as to say that they're like garbage people. I don't like that term. So what they are they're Google artists. That's what they are. That's what they are. They're Google artists. You could see that this guy, he's been given this story to write, and it's supposed to be a horror story with Iron Fist. And basically he said to himself, okay, Iron Fist's power comes from his hand. Let me just Google hand and horror, and I'll take, the first 5 things that pop up and then stick them into the story and make them plot points. Because that's what he did. Because I can see panels here, scenes from Aliens, scenes from Army of Darkness, scenes from Thing from Another World, all of this stuff. And again, it's in the art and it's in the story. Both of these people Both of these artists, the artist and the writer, are Google artists. All they do is Google something and they say, yeah, that's good enough. We'll stick that in and make a story out of it. That's not how you write a good story. That is a horrible story. And that's why these people can't write anything. You know why? Because they're shallow people. This is what Google artists are. They're so shallow, they can't even come up with ideas themselves. And so they just think, oh, well, I'll just Google it and that'll be good enough, right? I'm sorry, you modern generation people, the internet is not reality. All right? Googling something is not you understanding it or knowing about it whatsoever. These people are so shallow, they think that this is a good story. It is garbage. You actually have to have some life experience, because this is why I'm saying that they're Google artists. Because you know what? When you write what you know. And I would say it's the same thing for an artist. You draw what you know. These people know nothing. They're so shallow that they can't even come up with this stuff themselves. That's the whole point. They are so shallow that all they can do is Google something and then stick it together and say, yeah, that's a story. And again, that's why it's garbage, because it has no tie to anything. This has no meaning. It has no heart. It is garbage. You're just using the character and putting some plot points together in ways that make no sense. It is garbage. And as I said, if this is what you're going to get from Marvel and be gouged by them to pay, what, $5, $6, whatever it is for these kinds of books, don't buy Marvel anymore. This is garbage. I mean, compared to the stuff I used to read, this art and this storytelling are so horrible that this would not even be considered a Marvel book. So go buy your independent people, because you're going to be getting the same, if not a better level of storytelling. And at the very least, you're going to get someone who actually is trying to tell a story, someone who is actually trying to put art in there that has meaning, right? They're not just Google artists, right? They're people who actually are trying to develop themselves at the very least. These people don't care in Marvel. They don't care. This is garbage. Anyways, I just wanted to do that review because I picked this up thinking to myself, Iron Fist, there's something I might be able to get behind. Oh boy, was I ever disappointed. So, if I've given you anything new to think about, hit like. Hit the shield in the lower right hand corner of your screen to subscribe, and leave me a message. Tell me what you think about Iron Fist. Alright, I'll see you later.